Welcome into the PFF NFL podcast. Steve Palazzolo back here with Sam Monson, getting ready to preview all of the Week 17 action. How you doing, Sam? How was your Christmas holiday?
Pretty good. You, Steve?
It was great. Had a little quick trip back home to Boston.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable.
Excellent.
Had fun with the kids.
You almost kept up your Michael Buffer impression there in the intro.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I was doing some...
It was a little holdover left over. Steve, for some reason, was doing Michael Buffer impersonations before we went on the air.
Let's get ready to... No, I'm not.
A lot like that, yeah. And that was kind of how you rolled into the intro.
I didn't mean to. I can't turn it off.
I'm not complaining. I mean, I think it was a nice touch.
Thanks. Well, we're all just trying to get better here every day at a time. We're well fed. We just... What?
Every day at a time?
One day at a time?
Is that a sentence?
One day at a time. Well fed. I just bought you lunch.
Yeah. Why? Why did you buy me lunch?
Because I'm assuming Brandon Graham is not going to get 5 sacks this
Yes.
week.
Of course, if he does, that means I owe you 2 lunches in order to redress the balance.
That's correct.
Awkward.
That's correct. So I proactively went ahead, bought you lunch, assuming that I'm going to lose my Brandon Graham bet that he's going to get 10 sacks this year.
Having already lost the Raiders bet.
Yeah, but we got that back for some other off-camera.
Right, I just want to make the point that you lost that bet.
Yeah, that's fine.
For anybody listening, Steve is 0-2.
But your net +1, so I bought you your lunch.
Yeah.
But if Brandon Graham has 5 sacks against the Redskins this weekend,
I'll owe you 2. Yeah.
Correct. So that's what we're rooting for.
I'm prepared to take that risk for the barbecue that we just had.
It was pretty good. My podcast friends out there, though, we're rooting for Brandon Graham, 5 sacks.
Well, I'm not anymore. I mean, I wasn't anyway.
I want 2 lunches.
But I'm definitely not now.
Yeah, the barbecue was good, though. Let's get into it. Let's get into Week 17. We'll hit on the big games, starting with, can you believe it? The Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. It's not a big game for the Browns, but the way they're playing right now, whole lot of fun. Baker Mayfield playing well. Everything's kind of improving over there. Baltimore Ravens playing for a playoff spot. These teams played a few weeks back, and it was a 12-9 overtime victory for the Browns.
Yeah. It kind of is a big game for them, though, as well. They're not in the playoffs to play for anymore, but they have a winning record to play for.
Baker said they're playing for their identity or something like that.
Well, yeah, but that's, crap. They have a winning record to play for. That's the important thing.
That's true.
This is the first winning record this team could have for years with the quarterback like Baker Mayfield actually leading the way. I think it's a pretty big game for them. That's a legitimate thing to actually play for.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, it's going to be a good challenge. The Ravens are coming off a great defensive performance against the Los Angeles Chargers. And you've got the Browns. And as we mentioned, Baker, the highest graded rookie, top 10 graded quarterback, going up against this Ravens defense. That's pretty much the matchup to watch in this one, is it not?
Yeah, definitely. I saw Robert Klemko tweet some statistics earlier about the Ravens this season against quarterbacks with 5 or fewer years of experience. Basically, terrible stats. 58% completion, 6 yards per attempt, something like that. Blah, blah, blah. Like Baker Mayfield, in the first time they played, all right, they didn't score many points, but he passed for 8 yards per attempt. Like, he was getting the job done against this Ravens defense, I think better than a lot of younger quarterbacks have. And, we've seen him throw some ill-advised passes and make some mistakes, against teams like Houston, for example. But by and large, you haven't seen a team, shut him down. They forced mistakes out of him, but the team hasn't really stifled him and completely...
What was it, the Chargers, pretty much? Chargers game, they didn't do a whole lot until garbage time.
Right.
Texans game, a little bit of that.
Yeah, but the Texans game, I think, was more the big mistakes than an inability to function, as a passing quarterback.
Yeah, we've talked about the Ravens quite a bit over the last few weeks, so we don't want to repeat everything, but they're running a different type of offense. We've discussed Lamar at length the other day. If you guys want to go back and listen to it, that the Lamar analysis remains the same, right?
Yeah.
Throw for throw in accuracy, but make some nice downfield throws. They're trying to win with the running game and controlling the clock, and they've had some good success with it in recent weeks. But that success has certainly coincided with what the defense has done. They've started to rush the passer much better. And coming into the year, they did look like a very intriguing secondary, especially when healthy. You have Marlon Humphrey's emergence, when Jimmy Smith is out there, Tavon Young. I mean, they've got a lot of guys that can cover, plus Tony Jefferson and Eric Weddle back there. They're pretty good in the right spots.
Also, Brandon Carr continues to make really good plays every now and again. I was saying to you during that Chargers game, he is a guy that looked like he was done about 3 years ago.
Right.
And just keeps on going, and if anything is playing as well as he's done even at his best now. Like he's made a few incredible plays this season and remains a pretty good corner at times.
Yeah, he does, and he had a pretty solid game against the Chargers. So the Ravens are tough to pass on. We were breaking down the best defenses on the YouTube channel, myself and Eric Eager, and he was talking about how good the Ravens are in early downs. So one of the things that they've come up with, a lot of times you point to third down success, and you're like, hey, this defense is great on third down. But the old adage that first and second down kind of determines how easy third down is going to be really holds true, because the more they run the numbers on that, the first and second down stuff is the most stable. You get bigger sample size. And if you're good in those areas, you do have more third and longs. That's where the Ravens are excelling. So I think here's where the matchup is good. How was the Browns play calling earlier in the year with Todd Haley?
Awful.
Early down stuff, especially, right?
Kept setting Baker Mayfield up with third and forever.
Right. So this is Freddie Kitchens going up against this Ravens defense and getting some creative play calls, early play action, some cheap yards, as much as you can on early downs is crucial against this Ravens defense, because they do still have that creative third down package where blitzes are coming and they're fake blitzing and they're doing all these things from all different angles. As good as Baker has played, you still don't want to deal with that. So you do want to get into third and three, third and four type of situations.
Other than yardage, total yardage, which really is just a product of volume at this point, Baker Mayfield's numbers look incredibly like Tom Brady's numbers.
Ooh.
Same completion percentage is within a percentage point. 7.5 versus 7.6 yards per attempt. 25 touchdowns to 24 touchdowns, both with 11 picks. Passer rating 95.4 versus 95.1.
Why are you just reading stats?
Because they're very similar, and Tom Brady is your hero as the bastion of great quarterback play over the past however long. And Baker Mayfield's numbers look pretty much the same.
Yeah, I mean, Tom's 41.
Yeah. So, 41-year-old Brady is analogous to rookie Baker Mayfield.
Good for Baker.
Right.
Good for Baker.
Baker Mayfield's...
That's like the whole, when Brady's 75, maybe Christian Hackenberg in his prime is as good as him.
That is one of the great unanswered questions in football, is at what age does Tom Brady become a worse player, a worse quarterback than Christian Hackenberg? What age do their talent levels intersect?
But we decided there's no place where they intersect.
Right, because...
So then we had to start saying, when does prime Christian Hackenberg equal Tom? At what age is Tom Brady equal to prime Christian Hackenberg?
Yeah, because...
And it's probably like 68
right,
to 70.
At the point where Tom Brady would get worse than Hackenberg would also be about 45. So
Can I give you a Baker Mayfield stat?
Yeah.
35 big-time throws. That is fifth in the NFL. You got Patrick Mahomes, number one, Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, then Baker Mayfield with 35. And he has fewer attempts than everybody on the list besides Russell Wilson. So Wilson has the highest percentage of big-time throws.
So my favorite is that
big-time throw mug is right here, by the way.
Yeah.
Boom.
He's got the second best rookie quarterback grade we've ever given anybody at the moment.
He does.
The only person with a higher grade right now is 2012 Russell Wilson. So as much as everybody
Not RG3?
No.
Either?
RG3 is third. But as much as everyone was losing their minds over that 2012 RG3 season, we actually had Russell Wilson as the better graded quarterback that season. And, obviously RG3's career has gone off the rails, but that was kind of borne out by the fact that Russell Wilson remained awesome.
Yeah.
Whereas RG3 didn't. But the point is, that's pretty impressive, right? It's Russell Wilson, right now Baker Mayfield, and then RG3.
Yeah, it is impressive. And this is why it's a fun matchup going up against that Ravens defense. The Browns defensively, another weird team early in the year that they've been, kind of relying on turnovers. I think they do have a ton of defensive talent. I still can't figure out if Greg Williams is good for that defense or not. Because it kind of fluctuates between conservative safety play and just, crazy blitzes. But they're going to have to do the whole, got to throw 8 guys in the box to stop the run, right? And make Lamar beat you through the air. I'm curious to see what Greg Williams does defensively going up against Lamar.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big thing is that the Ravens, we've said this before, they present unique challenges to any kind of defense because they're going to show you stuff that you're not used to seeing. And if nothing else, you now have to figure out how you're accounting for the quarterback as part of the run game on pretty much every single snap. You can't just play that inside zone up the middle to Gus Edwards because Lamar Jackson's a threat to keep the ball at any time, and you need to maintain gap integrity on the backside. You need to maintain, contain. You need to make sure that he doesn't have a clear run to anything. And it is this interesting matchup with any defense, but particularly with a hyper-aggressive defense like Greg Williams that likes to blitz everything. Like, it's not a problem. You just need to make sure you're all maintaining discipline while you're doing that. Like, you can be aggressive and disciplined at the same time. I think Rex Ryan's Jets defenses in their heyday were always very good at that. Like, he had some hyper-aggressive defenses, but they were always very disciplined.
They didn't blitz a ton. It was the whole Rex Ryan tree, would be the whole, like, here's 4 dudes who could be blitzing from one side, and there's actually only one that's coming, and there's one coming from the other side, and it's that's where they've always been really, really good. It looks like there could be 8 guys blitzing at a given time, and there's only 4 rushers, and figuring out where they're coming from. That's where they've always been really, really good. I think from a matchup standpoint, you have Myles Garrett emerging as one of the best defensive ends, edge defenders in the entire league. Ronnie Stanley continues to develop at offensive tackle. I think that's one of those twice-a-year matchups that's going to be fun to watch as we move forward as well.
Yeah, definitely, especially because Myles Garrett has that kind of brute power, brute force to him, whereas if Ronnie Stanley struggles anywhere, it's with these more powerful but also, quick defensive ends. Like, I think he can handle speed pretty well.
Right.
But guys that are just going to attack him physically are guys that tend to give him some problems.
Should be a good one. Who would have thought? Browns-Ravens, one of the most intriguing Week 17 matchups. You and I are both taking Baltimore. We're going with the hot hand here.
Yeah. I don't love it, though.
Don't love it.
I need 3 games to become the best PFF pick person. I've had to go against Nate 3 times, right, to get those 3 games back. This was one of the games that I could have gone the other way and didn't. And now, the longer I think about it, the more I'm wishing I did.
Well,
but anyway.
It's too late now.
Yeah.
It's in the podcast world now. So everybody knows you've picked the Ravens, just like I did. Let's go to another key matchup when it comes to the playoffs. The Chicago Bears traveling to the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings win and they're in. Mm-hmm. If the Bears win and the Rams lose, the Bears have a shot. They can have that number 2 seed. So both teams are playing for something. We're a few weeks removed from Bears victory in Chicago on Sunday Night Football, one of those classic, this is the Kirk Cousins game where he needs to step up, and he didn't. And now I just saw the number, if you're into QB wins situationally, 5-24, or on pace to be 5-24 if they lose this one, against winning teams in his career, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Say what you want about QB wins, but sometimes I think things at the extreme ranges probably tell a bit of a story. So,
I mean, sometimes there's also a lot of crap in there.
Of course, there's always other stuff in there, but this is why they paid $84 million guaranteed for Kirk Cousins. This is the week at home against the tough Bears defense.
The Bears are also playing to play the Vikings again the week after, right?
Yes.
Like, if they lose,
well, if the Bears are the number 3 seed, let's assume the Rams are going to win.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, the Bears are the 3 seed at that point, and
but
the Vikings
can change, right?
The Vikings are going to be the 6 seed, almost certainly, because we're assuming Seattle wins as well.
Yeah, but it's possible that their opponent can change from the Vikings to the Seahawks, correct?
It could. I believe it takes a Seahawks loss to the Cardinals, though.
What's interesting, do you subscribe to the theory that it's very difficult to beat a team 3 times in a season?
I mean, no more difficult than it is to beat them twice.
Really? Because it would strike me as demonstrably more difficult to beat them twice. Or to beat them 3 times and twice.
So here's what I'll say. We were talking with Eric about this in the office. Division games are harder to predict, essentially. So when you're running all the numbers and it's like, oh, the Bears are great and the Vikings are bad, you immediately just say, well, let's bring it a little bit closer because it's a division game and familiarity kind of gives the underdog a bit of an advantage, right? So if anything, yes, and I'm not saying the Bears are great, the Vikings are terrible, just using as an example. So yeah, there's something to, like, the third time you face somebody, the underdog, in this case the Vikings, would tend to have more of an advantage. Are you getting at, like, the Bears should throw this because that's like
no,
a
I'm not saying
mentality.
they should throw it. I'm just saying that it makes that third game very interesting because, like, the first game was relatively evenly matched. The Bears win. This game, they still have something to play for, so they're probably going to go out there and try and win the game. If let's say they win it in another close game, that's 2 close division games in a row, setting up a third rematch in the postseason. That becomes a really fascinating game because there isn't that much between these two sides, and yet one team would have won twice. Everybody's starting from a clean slate again, not knowing kind of what they're breaking out in the postseason. It would set that up pretty interestingly.
I think the home road thing matters a lot. We both took Minnesota, I think in part because of that.
I took Minnesota 100% because Nathan didn't.
Oh, you did that specifically because
Yeah.
Nathan didn't? Because you need to win.
Yeah.
So do you believe Minnesota's going to win?
No.
Really?
No.
And I'm expecting the Eagles to beat the Redskins. Are you saying the Eagles are going to get into the playoff over the Vikings?
Yeah, probably. Khalil Mack is going to destroy Riley Reif.
Probably.
As he has done before. Akeem Hicks is going to destroy the interior of the Minnesota Vikings offensive line the way he has before.
The Vikings have now allowed over 200 pressures.
Yeah. Which isn't first anymore. It's now second to the Cardinals.
Good for them.
But that's going to be a disaster. That's going to be up in that 45% pressure range. Kirk Cousins has finally started to come back down to earth after playing stupidly good under pressure over the first half of the season. That over the past 3 weeks, his passer rating under pressure has been under 50.
If you've been following us all year, we've just been waiting for that to happen.
Right. The wheels are coming off the way they were supposed to. Ironically, the Vikings offensive line's actually been playing better of late, and he's been playing worse under pressure. But this is going to be one of those completely unmanageable games because of those two guys up front. And I don't think the Vikings defense has the horses to kind of keep pace in the reverse of a shootout.
So I think you continue to underrate the Vikings defense. So I did a video with Eric. It's on the YouTube channel for the best defenses in the NFL. And all year we've been saying there's not great defenses. The Bears are the closest thing to it, right? To the best defense. I think they're a clear number 1. Number 2 will surprise some people. It's the Rams. After all that they've been through, on a per play basis, they're good. And then number 3 is the Vikings. It's all in the NFC. Saints are number 4.
Having said that, probably no Xavier Rhodes, probably no Eric Kendricks. Those are 2 important coverage players to them. Their cornerbacks are going to be Mackenzie Alexander, Holton Hill, and Trey Waynes. That's
Kendricks is a key just because he's got some athleticism, to handle Tariq Cohen in space and some of the trickeration. Plus, you've got Mitchell Trubisky playing a little bit better the last few weeks. 4 out of his last 5 games?
His best 4 grades on the season, I think, have come in the last 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit and Tampa Bay were his 2 games where he was far above everyone else. But like I said a couple weeks ago, he's throwing the ball better against Green Bay. Last week, he had the one disastrous interception, and that was our way of saying, look, guys, this is another terrible play that's not showing up in the stats. He had a negated interception. But he was pretty good throw for throw. Converted some big third downs and all that, even though they only scored, 14 points against the 49ers. He's throwing the ball a little bit better. And this is what we've said all year in our very, very unbiased analysis, Bears fans. We said if Trubisky just starts making a few more throws and eliminating some of those negative, harsh, really bad negatives, they become that much more dangerous on offense.
The point about the Trubisky stuff was always that it's kind of a good thing because if he actually starts to play better on a throw-by-throw basis and starts to match his box score numbers at some point, that makes you better. You should be embracing the fact that you're doing this well with a quarterback that is not playing as well as his box score numbers.
Right. And we were trying to just say don't be fooled by the box score numbers. They're inflated.
If he does bridge that gap, that is a hugely good thing for the offense. And he's kind of started to do that over the past few weeks.
He has. So, look, I think this is another very fun matchup. Even with the injuries, the Vikings defense is tough. The last time these two played, all we talked about was the Vikings blitz and how Trubisky's biggest struggles have been against the blitz. That's one of those things that I think every single year, the same way Matthew Stafford going up against the Vikings blitz every year is, this tough matchup. I think this is another one for Trubisky. The Vikings didn't blitz him a ton the first time around. Maybe they should be a little more aggressive, try to force him into some bad mistakes.
Yeah, also, so as much as I was, slamming the idea that their cornerback is going to be Holton Hill, Mackenzie Alexander, and Trey Waynes.
They're playing well.
Alexander in particular has been playing really quite well recently. And Holton Hill for a rookie low, was he undrafted or a 7th rounder or something? For a guy that basically was not a highly touted pick, albeit a highly talented one who had some off-field issues or even on-field issues that caused off-field issues, whatever. He's been playing pretty well. Like, those are not terrible players. I'm just saying that none of them can live with Allen Robinson.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
But neither can Xavier Rhodes the way he's playing this season. Like, his entire season has been either getting burnt to a crisp or pulling a hamstring, or pulling a hamstring while getting burnt to a crisp.
That was last Sunday. Yeah, that was not good. That was not good. So I'm taking Minnesota because I do think they're going to pull one out at home. You're taking Minnesota because Nathan took the Bears.
Yeah. So that's one of the games I need to claw back.
Great. All right, so that's that. Bears and the Vikings. And then the other really important matchup when it comes to playoff implications, there's a few others on the list, of course, but Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans, Sunday Night Football play-in game. I love a good Sunday Night Football play-in game. I love those. Remember the classic, what was it, 6-8? What was the Seahawks record when they got in? Was it 6-8 Rams versus 6-8 Seahawks in 2010?
Yeah, and then they won with 7-9, right? They got in.
They win, and then they beat the Saints.
Yeah,
at home because they got the host.
Beastquake. Beastquake. Beast. Is that's what it was
the
called?
Quake? It was the run.
Yeah, which they called
Beast Mode.
Wasn't it
run.
Beastquake? They called it because
something like
caused like an actual measurable movement on the Richter scale.
Not because of him, because of the crowd.
Well, yeah. I wasn't suggesting he did it.
That would be impressive. So that was 2010, the classic 7-9 Seahawks getting into the playoffs and almost starting their dynasty.
Nice.
In real English. Colts at the Titans. The winner gets an AFC wildcard spot, the number 6 seed. What are you looking for in this one, Sam?
Do you still love it if the Tennessee Titans are reduced to playing Blaine Gabbert?
I don't love it as much if Blaine Gabbert has to play. We're unaware exactly of who's starting at quarterback for the Titans, but as of recording time, Titans expert over in the other room, Cole Brown, assures us that Marcus Mariota will toughen up and tighten up and play.
Yeah, I don't know that he has 100% record on these predictions over the season.
No, he's really not good at predicting Titans things. He kind of thinks with his heart.
Yeah, like I think at one point he couldn't feel his arm or something, and Cole assured us he would play and then didn't. At the moment, it sounded like he couldn't feel anything on the right-hand side of his body, which feels like a problem for a quarterback.
Especially a righty.
Yes. Well, I love that. That was your reaction to that earlier, which I loved because the implication was that if he was a left-handed quarterback, it wouldn't be an issue that he couldn't feel anything on the right side of his body.
You play through that
easily. I mean, I've never tried to play anything, really, without being able to feel one side of my body, but it feels like it would be a problem, whatever it is.
You should really try it.
Yeah.
Some things to watch in this one. So obviously the quarterback situation. You and I did our Sky preview on this one, and we focused very much so.
How is this anything other than a Colts win?
If Mariota plays,
yes.
Okay, so the Titans are one of those defenses, right?
No Jarrell Casey.
I understand, but they're still one of those defenses where they blitz and they mix things up, and they just kind of sometimes you just hit the right note when it comes to the matchup, right?
So luck is the answer.
No, but
by luck as in
Andrew
chance
Luck,
rather than Andrew.
No, Andrew Luck in this passing game, they have not been the same on the road as they have been at home in the dome. Okay, and the Titans have caused some problems for some pretty good passing offenses at times this year, and that's what it is. You're banking on the defense kind of keeping you close. Mariota has 6 deep passes that are dropped. Maybe one of those gets caught this time. That leads the league, by the way. 6 deep passes dropped. So he has to play. He has to play pretty well. Or, I was checking out some Corey Davis numbers this week. He is so much more efficient in the slot. So here it is. If the Titans make future Hall of Famer Corey Davis.
Is there a receiver in the Hall of Fame right now who is
Jerry Rice was a glorified slot receiver.
A slot receiver?
That's what he was. Doesn't matter. I didn't say he was going to go to the Hall of Fame. I just said he's going to get 1,000 receptions, be a top
future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be in the slot the entire time, but like Michael Thomas, you move him in as this, your number one guy moved into the slot to create matchups. Got to do that a lot more with Corey Davis. Then he's an 8 to 10 catch a game guy.
Right.
Realistically, though, the Titans need a lot of things to go well. You also need probably beast mode Derrick Henry again.
You do. Really, what you need is for Andrew Luck to set fire to the house again, and then just set fire to it too much to put it out by the end of the fourth quarter. Like that's what Andrew Luck does best, right? Is he is fantastic at setting fire to the house and then getting praise for putting it out at the end of the game.
Right.
as opposed to regular people who don't set fire to the house in the first place and therefore don't get the praise for putting it out.
Overall, Luck's been really good.
But ultimately don't have a burned out house either. I'm just checking out how many catches for his career Corey Davis has.
Oh.
Because he has fewer receptions for his career than Christian McCaffrey has this season. Christian McCaffrey's a running back.
So what?
And has
like
a lot
if you
more
lined
catches.
Corey Davis up in the backfield and threw him a bunch of screens and checkdowns.
Yeah, season.
Exactly. That's scheme, man. That's all scheme. Don't worry about Corey. Don't you worry one bit. Andrew Luck, some of the numbers we were rattling off for our Sky hit. Spoiler alert, if you guys are in the British Isles going to watch us on Sunday. They do that right?
Yeah, they do. Assuming they put us on. We haven't actually checked for a while.
We're on. We're on every single week previewing games. So snap to throw this year, Andrew Luck, 2.5 seconds. That's 0.3 of a second quicker than his average in his career. He's usually at about 2.8. That's massive in NFL terms. Highest percentage of clean pockets in his career by almost 10%. And this year he's got the third highest percentage of accurate passes from a clean pocket behind Drew Brees and Tom Brady. The regressed Tom Brady still can throw accurately.
The regressed Tom Brady.
From a clean pocket. Drew Luck's number 3 in just accurate passes. That's actual ball location on passes. And he has the number 2 PFF grade from a clean pocket, both in 2016 and this year, his last 2 full seasons. So just getting him 10% more clean pockets has been huge this year for Luck. So he's playing really well. But T.Y. Hilton, passer rating of 112.7 when targeted at home, only 70 on the road. You know, just get this little road. It's going to be cool. No nice dome in Tennessee. You know, we just could tighten the game up a little bit. Tighten up.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see how the Colts lose this game, particularly if Blaine Gabbert has to play quarterback.
I'm trying to hype it up. So let's find something else. Tennessee's blitz package. 46% of their pressures come from blitzes. That's 4th highest in the NFL. Jayon Brown, linebacker, second-year linebacker, number 1 pass rush grade among linebackers, tied for 6th with 18 pressures. I know the Colts O-line has been fantastic.
Yeah, nobody in the PFF picks has picked the Titans.
We're trying to preview the game here, Sam.
We're previewing it.
Add something to it.
You are trying to preview it by suggesting it's going to be a close encounter. I am trying to preview it by suggesting it's going to be a one-sided ass-whooping.
No, I don't think so. And then you got the Derrick Henry versus Darius Leonard matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Darius Leonard, our number 8 linebacker, a little bit lower than fans would like because of all of his gaudy stats. 7 sacks and 4 forced fumbles, but he's been very good. He's been very good. Hasn't been as good as Leighton Vander Esch on a snap-for-snap basis, but he's been very good.
Wow, you just dropped that in casually like it was nothing.
Yeah, I did. Well, because people are asking. People want to ask. Colts fans are getting mad lately. Why does Quentin Nelson only your number 3 guy? He's our number 3 guard. I mean, come on.
Only our number 3 guard? People are actually asking that?
Well, the grade's lower than they want is the issue. He's still playing extremely well. Derrick Henry's averaging 6.1 yards after contact per attempt over the last few weeks. That's insane.
Yeah.
Skewed a little bit by the 99-yarder, but that's still
a little
insane.
bit. Quite a lot.
So I've just given you a whole lot of things to watch for the game. Do you have anything that you want to add?
No, you've done an admirable job of selecting a bunch of things, a bunch of reasons to watch this game that will inevitably go the way of the Indianapolis Colts.
Great.
Good job. Well done.
Great. I can get anybody into your chair to do this job, analyzing the game.
You can try.
You're easily replaceable. We did it with Renner a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you did.
So you're gonna.
I'm just saying, Renner picked the Colts as well, as did you.
Yeah, I picked the Colts. The Colts are going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty of the PFF podcast is sometimes we're going to tell you why and some other things about it.
Uh-huh. Well, they're going to win because you have a better quarterback, better receivers, a better offensive line. A defense is playing at least as well as Tennessee's. There's no area in which the Tennessee Titans are superior to the Indianapolis Colts. Therefore, they will win the game.
All right, Colts are going to win. There you go. That's your Sunday Night Football preview. Well, at least you're in rapid fire mode, so let's get to the rest of the games in rapid fire mode. Just stay in the same mentality.
Got it.
The better team's going to win every game. Jaguars at the Texans, the other AFC South matchup. Texans need a loss from the Patriots, and if they win, they get to move up back to that number 2 seed, and they bye.
Well, the Jags benched Cody Kessler for the worst idiot for the idiot-proof offense. Therefore, they lose. Next.
Nothing else? We're not going to...
You said rapid fire. You should stay in that mode, rapid fire. I went rapid fire. You want more?
Give me one more thing. What's Deshaun Watson? What's the record he's going for this year? Since we talk about this all the time. Scrambles. The scramble record.
The scramble record?
So the most scrambles that we've seen since doing this in 2006, the most times a quarterback has dropped back to pass and taken off to run. Michael Vick, 2010, 60 times. This year, Deshaun Watson's at 59, so he'll almost certainly pass that. He also has 5 touchdowns when scrambling outside the pocket to throw. So just watching Watson play, there's something to that outside the pocket style that he is employing this year.
Yeah, he doesn't, though, have the highest scramble rate of any quarterback this season. That is...
Which takes us to the next game, the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. Who has the highest scrambling percentage?
It's Josh Allen, Steve, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills.
Well done.
Coincidentally.
That's what happens when we just yell stats at each other all day at the office, and we know where we're going to go with things. It's great.
So Josh Allen has the highest scramble rate of any quarterback this season. He's one of 2 quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson being the other one, whose scramble rate is above 10%. So this is the percentage of dropbacks where they take off and run past the line of scrimmage. So we're not just talking about running around in the backfield a lot and ultimately delivering a pass, because I haven't actually looked at that, but I suspect Watson and Russell Wilson in particular would be even higher on that, because there's a lot of passes that they do that on. So I was curious, what happens if you look at just pressured numbers, right? Just dropbacks in which they were actually pressured, what percentage of those plays do they take off and scramble? And I looked at it for PFF career as well, essentially. So Brett Favre basically has the lowest. We only obviously caught the back end of Brett Favre's career, where he was less mobile than he was earlier. But Brett Favre, Kurt Warner, Peyton Manning, those kind of guys, your typical pocket passers, are at the bottom end of this, all with a scramble rate while pressured of under 1%. Josh Allen was top with a scramble rate of 18%. So basically, crazy. 1 out of every 5 pressured dropbacks he's running for his life for yardage. Number 2 on that list, Tim Tebow. 17%. And those are the only 2 guys above 15. The next guy is Colin Kaepernick, Michael Vick, and Vince Young.
Yeah, I mean, in all of our I think we nailed a bunch of our pre-draft quarterback analysis as far as skill sets and how it's all, showing up on the field so far this year. The one thing we may have missed is Josh Allen bailing on pockets as frequently as he does.
I don't think we missed that. I don't think we saw the scramble, the yardage part of it coming. Like, we knew that he was constantly running around back there.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. Or just how effective he would be running the ball, right? Yeah, there was definitely a point. I remember in our preseason draft guide before last season where, Zach and I were looking and we came up with the notes together, and we basically said he's actually more comfortable, Josh Allen, making plays outside the pocket than inside. And there's a few quarterbacks that are like that, but he was at an extreme level of it, trying to get outside the pocket to make plays. So that's something to watch out for. And then this week I tweeted out, and I didn't get much pushback from Dolphins fans. Usually when you say anything that comes across as negative about your team's quarterback, I
think they're over it, right?
Trubisky, Stafford, you just get pushback from fans.
They're done now, though.
But I tweeted out that Ryan Tannehill now has the lowest PFF grade, yet he's number 11 in passer rating. And nobody came to his defense. They were like, yeah, I get it. He's definitely not playing as well as the stats show. Interestingly enough, again, QBR, who tries, they do things a little differently, try to use context and not give you as much credit for yards after the catch, that type of thing. They have him 31 out of 32 starting quarterbacks as well. I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback play as differently than his stats, or have a bigger difference in how he's played in the pure passer rating output.
Yeah, it's interesting. We, in the past, have graded Tannehill, I think, a lot better than either his stats or the conventional barometer of how well he's playing.
Right.
And this year it swung all the way back in the opposite direction. Like, a lot of
really
people,
far in the wrong direction.
Certainly his passer rating is good, and a lot of people think he's playing okay, and he is grading terribly outside of a couple of good games. So obviously, he's dealt with some injuries this year, and again, that Miami offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL. So there are mitigating circumstances there, but you're reaching this point where you have to ask yourself, what is Ryan Tannehill's baseline, in a given season, if we surround him with a half-decent offensive line and, quality play calling, coaching, etc. And B, what is his ceiling? Like, how good is good Ryan Tannehill if all those things are optimized? I don't think the Dolphins know the answer to either of those questions, which probably puts them in the quarterback market.
What's it, year 7? People are still waiting for the big Tannehill breakout. It's happening statistically, but not really.
Right.
Also getting sacked at a ridiculously high rate when it comes to pressure.
And only one of those we charged to him.
Right. So it's like things are happening. Tannehill, where are the stats? How many touchdowns? Click on his touchdown total because he's got 4 touchdowns on screens. That's a big part of the discrepancy. Even though he's missed time, he's tied for fourth in the NFL in touchdowns on screens with 4. Passer rating of 128.6 on screens. That's best in the NFL. And he missed time, remember. And he has the Miami Miracle touchdown that apparently went to his stats. Out of how many? And that's 5 touchdowns out of how many?
17.
Out of 17. So he's got 12, call them more real touchdowns.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't think we need to explain anything further. He had that pick 6 the other day. That was just brutal, under pressure. He has not played well, and I definitely think the Dolphins they're looking to move on in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be at this point because of those 2 unanswered questions from before.
I also think the way Buffalo's pass defense is playing, I'm taking Buffalo because their pass defense has been excellent. Miami has generally not fared all that well traveling north late in the season up to Buffalo. So I'm taking the Bills in this one.
Yep, same.
Cool. The other AFC East matchup, New York Jets at the Patriots. The Patriots win. They're trying to win for the bye, number 2 seed.
Ooh, so I didn't go the other way on this, but I forgot about the ginger theory when I was making this pick.
It's not that strong, right?
Isn't it, though?
It's not that strong.
I mean, it's been pretty strong.
Sam Darnold is our highest graded quarterback over the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks?
4 or 5, I think. But
okay.
Going back. Oh, the highest graded? Yeah, it could be just 3. But he's.
But the ginger theory's been in effect the last 2 weeks, and he's been just awesome.
Yeah. And it took the officials going crazy to take the game away from them last week.
Yeah,
the officials going crazy and Aaron Rodgers.
So that's what you said this week. You're like, the ginger theory is strong, but it's not strong enough that you can't lose while you have all the ginger power.
Yes. But the officials, the Patriots are unlikely to have the same kind of official help that the Packers had last week. And, Brady hasn't been that good, maybe.
You should change it. I did say, I think on draft night, or after the draft, I said Sam Darnold because I think he has that fourth quarter magic in him. I could see there's a point in his career this year, next year, there's a point over the next 2 or 3 years where he has this like huge fourth quarter comeback against the Patriots, and it just feels like this moment in his career, like he led the Jets to a victory over the Patriots and all that stuff. I'm not saying it's this week, but the way he's playing, it could be.
Absolutely,
should be a fun one when the ginger theory is in effect. We're all still taking the Patriots, and again, if they win, they're playing this like a playoff game because if they win, they get a bye, and old Tom needs a week off.
How significant is, I don't want to use the word decline because that's gotten me into trouble in the past. How significant is this decrease in overall performance we've seen from Tom Brady this year versus previous seasons?
I'd say, I think if you look at it objectively, you could say that he is now playing, if you take his whole season, he's now playing at like a 2014-ish type of level, which there was a point he started slow in 2014, and then after that it was since that Kansas City Chiefs game in 2014, the only debate for top quarterback has been him and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And then he actually dwarfed Aaron Rodgers during that time at some point. But there was a point in 2014 where it was just Brady and Rodgers. But I think if you take 2014 as a whole, Brady's top 5, top 6-ish, whatever, right?
Yeah. I mean,
he's in that boat right now. That's where he is.
He's playing better now than he was the first time people were writing him off. But the fall from where he was has been way more steep.
Maybe. But 2010, his 2010 through 12 seasons were really fantastic.
They were, but they weren't 2015 through 17.
15 through 17, he has been hands down the best quarterback in the NFL. Like, there hasn't even been a discussion.
So the drop from that to what we're seeing now, I think, is a steeper one than the drop.
Right.
Than the drop that prompted the 2014 articles of Tom Brady's done, time to move on.
If you look at it from a statistical point of view, and I said this in the office earlier today as well, if you just looked at his pressure numbers, if you just looked at the things that do fluctuate, Pressure's way down, passer rating of about 70. Last 2 years, he has been bucking that trend like crazy. He's been playing incredible under pressure, tough to sustain. So that's way down. I talked about his clean pocket accuracy. It's still up there, right? But it's these other situations. If you take his accuracy on second read throws, it's terrible. And those years where he was struggling a little bit on, he would struggle at times late in the down. He's back to that as well. He mitigated that for a few years where he would extend plays and feel comfortable out of structure. I've actually talked to Trent Dilfer about this a little bit. He's, we talked about what's the problem. He said, this is it. He doesn't trust guys late in the down. So a lot of the things that were issues in 2013 and 14 are kind of popping back up again because he's essentially been spectacular across the board in all areas over the last 3 years.
Right. And that offense has always looked better when he has at least two guys he can count on. Now you're back to Edelman. And that's pretty much it.
So right? that's another issue as well. No matter how good you are as a quarterback, to put up production numbers, you need help. To put up stats, you need help. There's a reason why Brady's still like number 6 in our grading, in like 19th in passer rating or whatever. You don't have the same Gronk, not even close. Edelman's been good, not great. You no longer have Josh Gordon, and Brady also played a few games without Gronk and 4 games without Edelman.
Yeah.
Right. So they've rarely had this full cast of characters of guys getting open. Chris Hogan has been inconsistent as well. He can't really separate a ton. Brady's not looking for him. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But I think if you look at it from a big point of view, a little bit of a bigger decline, you think?
I think it's a steeper decline than it was the first time people were having this conversation. But he's actually playing better now than he was the first time. Right?
Yes, he's definitely playing better than he played in 2013.
But I think it's coming from a higher decline.
Right. And when people look at decline, like we saw Peyton Manning straight lose his arm.
Right.
I feel like we've seen Eli Manning, lose his arm. I feel like we've seen times where Drew Brees and Matt Ryan don't look like the ball's coming out of their hand great. I haven't seen that from Brady. I think where you lose it a little bit is the off-platform stuff. That terrible interception he had against the Steelers where I think he was just trying to throw the ball out of bounds. Maybe he didn't have as much zip getting out of there, but we're also a couple weeks removed. He threw an absolute laser to Cordero Patterson for a touchdown. Like, you still see the zip and everything when he needs it. So I don't think it's a physical decline, which is weird, right? It should be physical, if anything. I'm seeing just not seeing things clearly.
So the physical decline thing doesn't always manifest itself in arm strength. Like Brett Favre could go out there now and still throw 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
That's true.
Like with the physical thing, the way it manifests itself with Brett Favre is he went from being essentially unbreakable to, okay, now when you hit me, everything is snapping in half and I can't keep going. Like it went almost overnight. It went from you cannot break Brett Favre no matter what you do to him to suddenly everything is just disintegrated around me and I can't keep going.
Right.
But the arm strength was always there. He could have kept going for years with that. Now maybe the same thing as with Brady. There's this thing with, is it a knee injury or was he just adjusting his knee brace
he's been on the
randomly right after a play whilst hitting the ground doing it? Like the thing with Brady at the moment though is that if it wasn't for the fact that he's 41, it wouldn't even really be notable. It'd be okay, he's playing worse than he did the last 3 years, but those 3 years were incredible. It was going to come down at some point.
Oh yeah, that was inevitable.
Right.
For sure.
So you wouldn't even be looking at it saying, but he's 41. So you're like, well, at some point, he kind of has to, right? Everybody does. It just happens. Whether it's Peyton Manning, whether it's Brett Favre, whether, everybody at some point reaches a stage where they can't keep going anymore. And Brady's way past that point for normal quarterbacks. You're like, well, I mean, is it just regression or are we starting to see the beginning of the end?
The funny thing about it is I do think you could look to his actual footwork and say something's different, right? I talked about the second read stuff. If you just look at his footwork on second reads, it's not as smooth. His footwork under pressure where, it's a few plays where he'll stand in there, other plays he won't. His red zone stuff has been eerily terrible.
Yeah.
He's been so good in the red zone in the past. Hasn't been as good there. Those also feel like things that could be fixed as well. So that's why I think I would, proceed with caution before writing him off. I also think looking forward, New England has to throw a whole bunch at finding good playmakers for him and just try to make, the last run as easy as possible.
Right, but they're also back to the situation of how do you plan for the future?
We'll spend the whole offseason talking about that. I mean, they got to draft somebody.
Yeah.
You're either going to draft somebody or you're going to say, you know what, Teddy Bridgewater, we're going to give you a 4-year deal and you're going to be our guy. So I think that's what they're looking at. But something to think about. You just went off the rails talking about Brady, but I like it. That's good. It's a good little discussion. I think we're going to split that into a separate YouTube video as well. So you guys can check out the YouTube video. Sam predicts Tom Brady's decline part 2. Right?
No.
Sam Monson, steeper decline than 2013. That's a great headline.
Didn't do that.
That is such a great clickbait headline, Sam.
No.
Sam Monson, who already wrongly predicted Tom Brady's decline, says this is steeper than it was.
I didn't predict the decline. I outlined the decline that was already happening, which he then reversed right after I wrote the article.
Patriots fans, thank you for what you did. All right, let's fly through the rest for real. NFC East champion, Dallas Cowboys going up against the New York Giants. The Cowboys are locked into the 4 seed. They claim that they're going to play their real players. They probably shouldn't.
They're real players.
Yes. Cowboys at Giants. What are we looking at here? I took the Giants because I don't think the Cowboys are going to play the whole game.
You don't think they're going to play?
Yeah.
I took the Giants because...
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. I took Dallas. Oh, I took Dallas because
to be
Nathan
different.
took the Giants. Yeah.
To be different, yeah.
So this was another one of those.
Here's your nugget. The Dallas Cowboys defense, Eric has them ranked at number 8 in the NFL, which is in that range of, hey, you can have those nice games against the Saints, but you can also give up 20-plus to the Colts.
The Cowboys are still ranked pretty low in PFF's power rankings, which are all driven off the play-by-play data and the quantifying how good everybody actually is on an individual level. And it's largely because of Dak.
It is.
Like, there are a bunch of... their defense, as he said, is really good. They've got some players, but they've got Dak.
Yeah.
And he's not playing very well. And, for example, the Philadelphia Eagles are ranked ahead of the Cowboys by like 5 spots in the power rankings. And they have Nick Foles, the quarterback. That's the kind of level we're at with Dak at the moment.
Interesting. Yeah, there's something to be concerned about there. His fumbles, the sacks that he's taken, there are definitely some concerns there. And so if you guys have PFF Elite, what I do suggest is you go check out the quarterback grading page. I actually really like that we pulled out this fumble grade this year, because sometimes when we say the stats don't match the grade, a lot of it comes through in fumbles, which never show up in the stats. So if you see a guy that has a very poor fumble grade, you'll just assume that there's a bunch of harsh negatives in there. And as I scramble to get to the page right now and see where Dak ranks with his fumble grade, where did he go?
You're doing it really well.
27.7 fumble grade.
Yeah,
so he's got a 94-plus passer rating, but the 3rd worst fumble grade behind Cody Kessler and Lamar Jackson fumble grade. That's why Lamar's numbers in production don't match his grade either. But that's something to keep an eye on for Dak. Foles actually right behind him in fumble grade as well. How about that? So I'm taking the Giants, and you're taking Dallas just because Nate took the Giants.
Yeah.
Falcons at the Tampa Bay Bucks. You said, Steve, is this the week that Jameis Winston?
I'm giving Jameis one last shot, right? You keep going on about this idea that Jameis and his high volatility and his big-time throw percentage.
He's like 24. You're going to give him one last shot
and his
high positive
24
season?
Grade percentage and all this kind of stuff.
Number 1, positive grade percentage.
Right. You've been saying for basically the entirety of this man's football career that at some point he's going to put it all together and we're going to get this amazing Jameis Winston and we're going to get a 2015 Cam Newton-esque MVP caliber season from him, and all will be well. And I've been telling you almost as long that it's never going to happen because this is just him. I am giving him one final shot because, again, Nathan has chosen Atlanta. So I've given him one shot. Week 17 against a relatively average Falcons team at home. Jameis Winston just needs to show up once and get me my win. And if he doesn't do it, if it's the same old Jameis, then it's done. No more. There will be no more, yes, he can have it this season. No more. It's never going to happen. So one shot and done.
Fair. You also have Matt Ryan playing outdoors.
Well, yeah, but in Tampa. It's not like he needs to travel.
They're playing, but he could have torrential rain.
It's not like he has to travel to Pennsylvania.
That's true. Pennsylvania is really tough. Last week, it's his best outdoor grade for a game grade at Washington, 75.8. How about this? He's got his... I'm going to count the number of games he played in the Dome for his best graded games. Ready? 1, 2. This is good radio. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. His 7 best games came in the Dome. Takes 7 games until you get to his best outdoor game.
He's another guy that's got a reasonable disparity between passer rating and PFF grade. He's 4th in passer rating at the moment and 11th in PFF grade.
Yeah, and it's literally every other year. 2015, we said better than the grades, better than the stats are showing. 16, MVP season, not as good as the grades, not as good as the stats are showing. Last year, hey, he's having a lot of bad interception luck. He's better than the stats are showing. And this year, not as good as the stats are showing. One year, it'll all match up for us. Matt Ryan, still very good, but not as good as the stats are showing.
At least he hasn't had a butt interception this year.
The butt pick. He's had, I tweeted out last week something like 14 turnover-worthy plays this year. Last year he had like 6, but the interception totals are this year he's got 6 picks. Last year he had 14. Yeah. It's almost like a straight switcheroo in Matt Ryan. Did I take Atlanta still?
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, you did.
Can I switch that to Tampa Bay? I just talked myself into it.
Nope.
Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. What are we playing for here besides pride? Detroit Lion pride.
That's pretty much it, right? Aaron Rodgers is playing because, it would be disrespectful to everybody else who's playing Week 17 if he didn't go out there and give it a shot.
That's good. I'd rather see him than Deshaun Kaiser play.
Well, I think that's the real reason he's playing, right?
I think he's doing Kaiser a favor. Maybe he's buddies with Kaiser. He's like, look, the less you see the field,
the better for all of us.
The more people think you have potential.
It's a win for everybody if you don't get out there, throw the football.
We just don't want you to not have a job next year.
Yeah. So Rodgers will play, therefore the better quarterback. The Lions, it looked like that game last week against Minnesota was kind of going their way, and then the Hail Mary happened, and the whole game just unraveled from there for them.
It did, yeah.
And I think, honestly, they're just going to come up against, a better team in Green Bay, whose young defense is actually playing reasonably well. They're going to be a fascinating team for next year because there's a lot of really young, talented players on that defense, but we've kind of seen that before when they had, rookie Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins, and those guys both played really well as rookies in limited sample size. And it's going to be a case of seeing how they progressed, and both of them just fell off a cliff.
And it went the wrong way.
Right. Now they've got the kind of same thing with, Jair Alexander and some of these other guys. They played really well, but, we've seen that before. Fool me once, etc. So
that whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm interested in Matthew Stafford having the lowest average depth of completion in the NFL this year. Another guy you just let him.
Average depth of completion.
Yeah. It's like 4 yards per completion.
Okay.
Just unleash him, man. Unleash Stafford.
You kind of need to with a quarterback like him, right? You have to. There's no point in playing him conservative because that's not what he does well.
The output has been, it's the worst statistical output in his, probably since his rookie season this year.
By the way, his rookie season, when I look through the sort of, the best rookie seasons in PFF career, his rookie, it's unbelievable how bad he graded as a rookie.
Yeah. No, when I talked to George and Eric about running our numbers and looking at rookie progression and all that stuff, Stafford's one of the examples I used because his grading was actually comparable to, nobody's really comparable to 2011 Blaine Gabbert, but Stafford's close. Bortles had a terrible rookie season. Derek Carr had a terrible rookie season. And the thing I always wanted to figure out is, was there something in the data that said Stafford can pull out of this? Back. Gabbert's screwed.
Right. So if you listen to this run of quarterbacks, essentially the worst graded quarterbacks we've ever seen at PFF, John Beck with the Dolphins in 2007, Max Hall with the Cardinals in 2010, Blaine Gabbert, 2011 Jags, Ryan Lindley, 2012 Cardinals,
makes sense.
Troy Smith, 2007 Ravens, Jared Goff.
Short sample sizes here?
A little bit. Yes.
Keep going.
Jared Goff, 2016 Rams, and then Matthew Stafford with the 2009 Lions, which is worse than Blake Bortles.
Wow.
That is a spectacular. He had a PFF grade of 45.
Yes. And then the next year only had 102 dropbacks, showed pretty well in that before battling injury. And then 2011, he had the massive breakout year throwing for over 5,000 yards.
So just notable quarterbacks whose grade that is significantly worse than Kaiser, Christian Ponder, Brandon Whedon, Vince Young, Paxton Lynch, Mark Sanchez, Bruce Gradkowski, Blake Bortles. There's some pretty terrible quarterbacks that had a better grade than Matthew Stafford's rookie year.
We've seen great improvement. So, another interesting offseason discussion, I think, with the Lions and what the future looks like building around Stafford.
They always love a good rational discussion about Matthew Stafford.
Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. We've got Kyle Allen getting the start for the Carolina Panthers. Teddy Bridgewater for the Saints. I'm taking the Saints because they have a better roster and a better quarterback.
Teddy. I'm
interested in seeing Teddy.
Right.
There.
This is good for
Yeah. You're a Teddy fan in general, right?
I think, it's hard not to root for a guy whose leg basically imploded randomly on a drop back.
Yeah.
And then came back, got himself on the field, and looks viable still. I mean, he's been on the field a little bit and has looked okay.
This was
I also think generally he was unfairly. The way his career panned out in Minnesota was unfair to him in terms of the perception. Like, he was seen as this dink and dunk only quarterback. I think a huge amount of that was Charles Johnson as his number one wide receiver. That's going to be a problem for anybody
in a vertical passing attack.
Yeah, and a Norv Turner offense, and this is the pre-evolved Norv Turner offense. This was the climbing out of the primordial soup offense that hadn't yet developed legs and was still like dragging itself along the ground with its flippers. Like, there's two wide receivers out in passing patterns, one of whom was Charles Johnson. There was 7-step drops behind a terrible offensive. Like, it was the worst possible offense to situate a quarterback in, and it basically manufactured checkdowns. Right? It's like drop back, 7-step drop, look up, neither of the two guys are open, check it down. That was basically what happened.
He's also a bit more conservative by nature, but I think that just
but it was an offense that basically manufactured this hyper-conservative production from him. And this idea that that's who he is, I think, is probably unfair to him. We haven't really seen what he can do behind an actual functioning offense.
And I think this is, if he has a big game, it'll help. I think regardless, though, this offseason, people are going to stack up Teddy Bridgewater, what they saw from him in the preseason, what they see from him in Week 17. They're going to stack him up against this draft class that now no longer has Justin Herbert.
Right.
It has Dwayne Haskins, and it has Daniel Jones getting first-round hype, and Drew Lock getting first-round hype, and Will Grier, who maybe a fringe first-rounder, but basically a whole lot of question marks in the first-round mix. And I think there might be a bidding war for Teddy Bridgewater, regardless of what happens this week. But I expect a good game from him.
And there aren't that many teams that desperately need quarterbacks, but the ones that do need them now. Like, they can't, can't wait for a quarterback that may develop in a couple of years who they have to take in the first round. Like Denver, right? Denver need a quarterback ASAP. John Elway swung and missed a few times now and kind of needs something to go right. If he can't tempt somebody into another Peyton Manning year for him, he needs something.
Well, then Jacksonville,
right? He needs like a defense. Jacksonville, again, saying they've got a window that could potentially be closing. They need someone in there now. The Patriots could need a replacement for Tom Brady ASAP. Again, they might need to go for a guy they know is a certain level right away. The teams that might actually be interested in quarterbacks probably need a Teddy Bridgewater more than they need a Drew Lock.
No, I agree on that, though. Definitely agree on that, even with the price tag. All right, flying through the rest. Oakland Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs win, and they get the number 1 seed. I'm expecting that to happen.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's no reason the Raiders should beat the Chiefs, but then there was no real reason they should run them close the last time, and yet they did. Again, that's why this division thing.
Playing in Kansas City is going to be a rough one.
The biggest thing to watch. You need to watch this and the Chicago Bears game, right? Because there is a chance that the season finishes in a situation where the Oakland Raiders as a team has the distance that they are below the second worst team in terms of total pressures is the exact same as the number of total pressures that Khalil Mack has on his own.
That's amazing.
Which would be just artistry if that actually came true. So Khalil Mack needs to have a pretty big game against the Bears. I think he's 5 or 6. The difference between the two is like 5 or 6 at the moment. So if he had a big game, the Raiders didn't really get any pressure.
The fact that it's even in the ballpark right now, given the fact that Mack did have a lull midseason where he didn't do much.
Yes. Oh, he got injured, right?
Yeah.
So that would be amazing if that happens. That's something to watch. So hopefully Mitchell Schwartz and the Chiefs' offensive line can keep a clean sheet and really let Khalil Mack hone in on that, bridging the gap.
We've talked about how difficult Mitchell and right tackles in the AFC West have it through the years, but once Khalil Mack left, you get the 2 gimmies now
against the Raiders
this year. Bengals at the Steelers. I got my Holtman's Donuts. Cincinnati. Hometown Cincinnati Bengals at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jeff Driscoll still starting at quarterback for the Bengals. I don't give them much of a shot at Pittsburgh.
No.
Pittsburgh still has a chance at the playoffs. They need the Ravens to lose, and they need to win. The other way they get in, tie.
tie.
Colts-Titans tie.
Colts-Titans tie.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I'm almost positive on that. My wife told me that. I'm taking her word for it. I am taking her word. Kelly, do not let me down.
That's
pretty sure that's real. I didn't read every last scenario, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
Okay.
So we're all taking Pittsburgh across the board. Good.
Yeah, I mean the Steelers are probably going to be in this unfortunate situation of actually just missing out in the playoffs because they came off on the wrong end of a couple of really tough losses.
And they have
to very good teams.
And they would have as good of, if they were the number 6 seed, they would have as good of a chance as anybody.
They really would
to run the table.
Like this is a good team that can hang with any side in the AFC, and they may end up missing the postseason just because they couldn't get it done against New Orleans,
at Oakland.
Some pretty good teams.
Yep,
and Oakland.
Oakland. Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Redskins. Josh Johnson was playing. They were protecting him as well as they could. Then a bad interception kind of turned the tables in comeback time against the Titans last week. The Eagles continue to roll here behind Nick Foles.
They do. The Eagles thing, they're going to end up potentially squeaking into the postseason. A return Super Bowl run is not out of the question for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Whoa.
They are ranked, I think, 7th in PFF's power rankings right now. They get to the postseason with a win here against the listless Washington Redskins and the Vikings losing to the Bears, which is eminently possible. And at that point, let's assume that Foles doesn't stink in this game in order for them to win it, which is probably, if that happens, he's probably not terrible.
Foles would have, if Foles has a decent game here, he's already put together a few decent games. You're talking a Super Bowl runs like 7 or 8 straight weeks of good Nick Foles. That's tough to do. The 2-game stretch is crazy, but
at that point, they would be in the postseason. Their defense would still be cooking. The defensive front has been good all season long. They lead the league in total pressures by a mile. They lead the league in win rate, pressure percentage, all that kind of stuff. They're still the best pass rushing unit in the game, right? And their secondary's gotten better. Avonte Maddox in particular was a DB that I kind of liked coming out of the draft. He's actually been playing really well.
Yep.
Their secondary's gotten a little bit healthier, and the guys that were forced in at sort of emergency duty have been playing better. Like those people haven't stayed at the standard of disaster that they went in at. They've actually developed with the playing time.
Right.
So suddenly this is actually a viable team that still has weapons on offense. Nick Foles is a little bit more of that YOLO type quarterback that will just give Alshon Jeffrey a chance to go up and catch a ball. And like the Ryan Fitzpatrick deal, sometimes that works out well. Sometimes it falls off a cliff and it's a disaster.
Fitzpatrick and Foles comparison, that's not bad either.
But you can kind of keep that kind of thing going with those types of receivers. So if Philadelphia gets to the playoffs, they're a pretty dangerous side.
Oh, I agree. Honestly, I think all 12 playoff teams, it's going to be, you could see all 12 playoff teams. We kind of said this last year, go on a run. No, it ended up being the two number 1 seeds, right? But it's
how absurd would it be if the Eagles repeat, Nick Foles goes on another run, and then next season we start the year so that then you're in a situation where as ludicrous as the Nick Foles versus Carson Wentz conversations are now, if we have 4 more games of MVP caliber Nick Foles, they're probably not crazy in the offseason.
Well, no, because you're getting way ahead of yourself.
At which point then, right? Then you give the starting job to Nick Foles. He sucks next year. There'd be some magic in that.
That would be like Flacco's earned this big contract after winning the Super Bowl type thing, right?
Except Nick Foles, I think, is capable of way worse play than Joe Flacco was.
We're previewing Week 17, yet you just created this crazy alternate reality.
Tell me that's not a beautiful scenario that I've just laid out in front of you.
A lot of fascinating. Wentz, where does Wentz end up? Wentz goes.
Oh, he's still there as the backup. He's on the rookie deal, remember?
Oh, Wentz is backing up Foles in Philadelphia now?
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
But then he'll come back in mid-season when Foles goes 0-4.
Oh, you got to keep Foles. You got to keep Wentz for security purposes.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Any reason that the Cardinals have a shot here?
None whatsoever.
Seahawks kind of playing for some playoff positioning.
Yeah.
But we're expecting them to play. I think it's if they lose, there's still a chance that they would have to go to Chicago Week 1. You'd rather go to Dallas, essentially.
Nah, I don't know that it makes a big difference for them.
Okay. Well, I'm expecting them to just play football.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll, he's competitive and all that stuff, and they're going to beat the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, who are terrible.
Great. The other NFC West matchup, 49ers at the Rams. We do have one pick for San Francisco. That's Neil.
Wow.
Because the 49ers account gives him kudos or they thank him for picking them. So he's just trying to grab a few extra Twitter followers here. That's the only reason why he's making this pick.
The Fighting Mullinses.
They are the Fighting Mullins.
They've actually been playing pretty well with Nick Mullins at quarterback. Now, not a huge amount of that is due to Nick Mullins at quarterback. He's another guy who is...
Yards after the catch stuff is
right.
ridiculous.
And he's sort of... again, a guy who's not grading as well as box score statistics necessarily, but he's a guy who is actually capable of sitting on top of this ship, heading in the right direction, not, turning it into a cliff edge the way some quarterbacks are. There's something to be said for that, right? If you've got a coach as gifted as Kyle Shanahan at creating an offense that's, schemes a lot up, same with Matt Nagy, there's something to be said for being a quarterback that's just not going to run the thing off the rails. And Mullins has been pretty good at that.
Kyle Shanahan, I feel like he's lost a little bit of his luster just because they're not winning a ton of games. But if you do step back and take a look at what he's done, he developed 2016 MVP Matt Ryan season, and then, struggled with rookie C.J. Beathard, but made Garoppolo look really good.
Also got the best stretch out of Brian Hoyer's career ever.
He did.
Bobby Hoyer. Back in those days.
Back in 2014 with Cleveland.
Right. Got the best stretch out of his career.
I'm just saying that, like, in recent years, we got Nick Mullins. You've got Beathard looking much better this year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff coming out of there. And his whole career basically working with, like, Matt Schaub. The whole Shanahan system. Making Matt Schaub statistically look like one of the best quarterbacks of all time if you go look at career stats and rating and all that stuff. So, it's something to keep an eye on when they do get Jimmy G back or if they do build around Nick Mullins.
Well, no, but we've reached that point that we said, whereas they may have found themselves a better backup.
Oh, I agree.
He's basically come out and said, I can't sit Nick Mullins down. He's playing well enough to have earned this relief starting gig.
Right.
So next year, I imagine the depth chart goes Jimmy G, Nick Mullins, Beathard now. So if nothing else, they've, in theory, upgraded at backup.
This is the strategy we keep saying, though, too, is like you keep drafting quarterbacks and you never know when you're going to find out. And then you just have this Green Bay Packers situation where it's Brett Favre, Mark Brunell, Matt Hasselbeck all on the same team.
Yeah. I mean, if your third quarterback is anything other than a young, inexperienced player that you don't really know who he is, you're doing it wrong.
Not Matt Castle?
No. Not Matt Castle, not Mark Sanchez. Like, if your third quarterback is an old busted veteran who you know is going to go out there and play like crap, you are failing this system.
I still wish Kellen Moore got a more extended shot.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore had a 400-yard passing game in the NFL.
I kind of like
his arm is average high school arm. Kellen
I kind of like what the Cowboys did, which is what I've been saying they should do for years. Where if you've got a guy who's only in the room because he's a good quarterback room guy, get him off the roster and make him a coach.
Oh, cut his salary.
Right.
Make him a coach.
Save a fortune and get a roster spot back. That's what the Cowboys did.
I'm a Kellen Moore believer. If you gave him a shot, he would be
I was right up until he
reasonable.
Played and then played badly.
I'm going to go back and watch some Kellen Moore film just for fun.
You do that.
All right, one more game to get through. Los Angeles Chargers at the Denver Broncos. The Chargers still have a chance at the number 1 seed if they win this game and the Chiefs lose to the Raiders.
Right. Probably not happening.
And technically, the Patriots have a shot at the number 1 seed if the Chargers lose this as well.
Wow.
So there's 3 possible number 1 seed scenarios, but 2 of them involve the Chiefs losing to the Raiders.
2 of them aren't happening. Okay.
Most likely. So the Chargers lost to the Broncos the last time around, and now they got to travel to Denver. Denver's had a very disappointing finish to the season, but again, when it comes to like home road splits and the way they play, they're always tough in Denver.
They are, and they are a completely different team. Though
Philip Lindsay's banged up. Don't believe he's playing.
Yeah, they're a completely different side, and yet ironically, their record is probably going to be the same, home and away, Denver this season, despite being a completely different side. They're 3-5 on the road, and right now they're 3-4 at home. So if they do lose,
but they had to play the Rams,
right? I mean, it's not 100%. Like I say,
they lost to the Rams and Chiefs at home.
Yes, it's not 100% driven by the home and away thing. They are a different team at home, but ironically, the record is potentially going to be exactly the same.
Right.
But the Chargers, this last week was disappointing, Steve. Not just because I spent 10 minutes the week before talking about how they'd gone through this change in mindset.
The Chargers.
And they go and stink against the Ravens and lose a game that they should have won.
They put too much into that mindset for the Chiefs game. That's what it was.
Yeah, but you can't do that. That's the point in changing the mindset. You got to go through all that and learn how to win, Steve. That was the point I was making.
Gotcha.
They didn't. Well, either they learned how to win then forgot about it, or they didn't learn properly. But either way, they should be better than the Denver Broncos. Again, if you look at this Chargers team, there's too much good on it. The defense in particular has been pretty fantastic. They're another one of these top 15 ranked defenses that's good enough on a given day to show up and play well. Their secondary, guys like Desmond King has been playing really well. He's an irritating guy, though, because his play-by-play grading is very hard to articulate in numbers. He's never high.
He's in the slot, right?
So
you're not going to have a ton. You're not going to have a ton of. You're always going to give up catches in the slot for the most part, especially in a zone-heavy scheme like they run.
You're going to give up yardage. You're going to give up a high percentage of catches because the slot does. So it's very hard to find numbers that articulate how good Desmond King has been, and yet he has been exceptional when you break it down on a play-by-play basis. The closest one you'll find is probably stops, where he's consistently very good at coming up, making those catches short of the sticks and essentially crapping out the offense on that drive.
I was just looking through the Broncos' home schedule.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pretty tough home schedule that they had. They had Seattle at home, playoff team, beat the Raiders, of course. Lose to Kansas City by 4.
Yep.
Best team in the AFC. Lose to the Rams by 3, second best team in the NFC most likely. They lose to the Texans, number 3 team in the AFC, by 2 at home. They lose to the Steelers, borderline. They beat the Steelers, but they played them at home, again, borderline playoff team. And then the Browns 2 weeks ago. Borderline playoff team, Cleveland Browns. And now they've got the Chargers. So when you look at Denver's home schedule, their schedule as a whole, pretty
right. I mean, they have played dramatically better at home than they have on the road. I was more mocking the symmetry that may present itself rather than the notion that they are better at home.
No, I wasn't correcting you. I was just, we're having a good time here.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. That's every game. Week 17. People think that we don't like each other. People watch our videos because they catch us when we kind of do this, half banter, half joking, whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe you do bite. Maybe you hate me.
When it's possible.
But people think we hate each other.
Yeah.
According to some of the feedback.
Have you been reading the comments again?
Yeah. YouTube comments. There are listeners, Sam. We got to see what they're saying. Some of them are idiots. There's some really mean Bears fans that keep coming back. It's like a Cardinals video, and they're like, "Oh, you hating on Trubisky again, idiots?"
Yeah,
it happens.
Okay.
Anyway, let's wrap it up. Week 17, it's coming in, and here we go. Week 17.
Wow, you lost all interest in that hype midway through it.
Let's get ready to rumble in Week 17.
Nice. We're definitely keeping that in.
Oh, God. Cut.
In fact, not only are we keeping that in, if we could isolate that sound clip and put it on social media, all platforms, that would be ideal.
If it's going to go to social media, I'll do a better job of it. But not here on the podcast. That's it. Week 17. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back here Monday morning with your Week 17 preview. We'll get into all the playoff matchups and all the fun stuff, everything you guys saw this weekend. Thanks to everybody for listening. Be sure to subscribe if you guys haven't already, and check out the YouTube channel and ProFootballFocus.com for more of this great information, guys. Talk to you Monday morning.